got 3 more examples for you. One where we have to complete the square, and then 2 where we have to go backwards and write the equation after we're given information. So this is our first one where we're going to have to complete the square. I know that because it doesn't look like our typical formulas for ellipses. Remember, our formulas in general look something like this. Oops, I already made, let me fix that. So we have x minus h squared and then y minus k squared on top. And then if it is horizontal, you're going to have the a squared underneath the x's. And if it is vertical, you're going to have the a squared under the y's. So in any case, this does not look like these. I do know that's an ellipse though, because the x's are squared and the y's are squared. So my goal is to complete the square and rearrange this so that it looks like these equations down here. So I would group the x stuff together, because in these equations the x's are together and then the y's come next. And I'm going to leave some room so I can complete the square. And then I'm going to group the y stuff together. And then this constant term, I just always automatically kick it over to the other side. Sometimes it would work to keep it over here, but I just always kick it over. All right, now this part is fine because there's no leading coefficient, but over here we have to do a little bit of work first. So I'm just going to recopy this x stuff down. Okay, now for the y's, I'm going to take out this leading coefficient of 4. And when I do that, I will be left with a y squared minus 2y, and I'm going to leave room in the parentheses because I'm going to complete the square and fill it in here. All right, so completing the square, here we take the 6 divided by 2 and square it, so that would be 3 squared. We're going to get a 9. That completes this square. But whatever I add to one side, I have to add to the other side. And then over here, I'll do purple, maybe. I would take this negative 2 divided by 2, square it. I'm going to get negative 1 squared, which is 1. Now, here's where you need to be very careful. I alternated the left side, not by 1. I altered it by a factor of 4, because this 4 would distribute through. So technically it'd be 4y squared minus 8y, and then this would be a plus 4. Can you kind of see that better? So I need to add a 4 over to this side, not a 1. So if it kind of helps you, we added a 9 here and we added a 4, so I need to add 9 and 4 on the other side. And then this is going to factor into the quantity x plus 3 squared. And then I will have that 4 out in front. And then this will factor into the quantity y minus 1 squared. And then over here, the 9's cancel and I have a 4. Now it's getting closer to like over here, but do you see how they're always equal to 1? So the way that I can transform this and make this equal 1 is if I divide out 4. But I would have to divide everything by 4. So then I will have the quantity x plus 3 squared over 4. Here, these will cancel. I should always reduce if I can. So whatever these numbers are here, reduce them. So in this case, it would just be a 1, because technically those would cancel and I would have 1 in my denominator. All right, so here is my equation. Okay, the number underneath the x's is bigger, so that's the a squared. So if a squared equals 4, then that means that a is 2. And then that means that this is the b squared. So if b squared is 1, then b is 1. The center is at negative 3, positive 1. I'm going to graph that, negative 3, positive 1. Because it's the a squared is underneath the x's, that means that this is horizontally aligned. And A goes from center to vertex. So I'm going to go horizontally from my center over 2 to get one vertex. And I'm going to go over to the other direction to get the other vertex. And here was my center. B goes from the center out to the edge of the minor axis. So from the center, I would go up 1 and I would go down 1, and that marks the edge of my ellipse. So then I can connect those together and get my ellipse. And then the only other thing I'm missing are the foci. And the letter that we use to figure out the foci is the letter C. And we get that C squared equals A squared minus B squared. So C squared is going to equal A squared, which is 4, minus B squared, which is 1. So it looks like C squared equals 3, which means that C is the square root of 3, which is 1.73. So I would, from the center, I would go horizontally because the foci and the vertices lie on the same axis. I would go over 1.73 in this direction and 1.73 in this direction. And there would be my foci. So the vertices are at the coordinates, this would be -5, 1. And the coordinates of this one would be -1, 1. And then the foci, the coordinates of this, well, remember we added 1.73 on here, so this was at 3. If I'm going to the left 1.73 past that, I'll be at -4.73, 1. And if I'm going 1.73 in this direction, I could take -3 and add 1.73 to go to the right, and then I would get -1.27, 1. All right, moving on. Now we're going to go backwards and we're going to write an equation based off of information that we're given. So here we are told we have foci at 0, 1. So 0, 1 would be right here. And the other foci is at 4, 1. Okay, so right off the bat, I know now where the center is because the center has to be between those two. So the center would be right here. So the center is at 2, 1. And the distance from the center to a focus is represented by the letter C. So center to focus is, I go over 2 in either direction. So C equals 2. Just remind yourself C is center to focus. Oh, and an easy way to remember that it's the letter C is there's a C in center and there's a C in focus. So from center to focus is C. Maybe that'll help. And then the major axis has a length of 6. So the whole length is 6. So that would mean it's split into 3 to the right of the center and 3 to the left of the center. So if I go 1, 2, 3 to the right of the center, I'll have a vertex there. And if I go 1, 2, 3 this direction, I'll have a vertex here. The foci and the vertices lie on the same axis. So if the foci were horizontal, then I know the vertices should go horizontal. And I'm going to write horizontal just to remember when it comes time for our equation. In any case, from center to vertex, that is the A value. So center to vertex is 3, so that is what A equals. All right, so here's kind of some things we know as of right now. In terms of my formula, it's always going to go x minus the h value, which is 2 squared, and then it'll be y minus the k value, which is 1 squared. And then I'm going to have both of those as fractions. It'll equal 1. The other thing I know is because of the fact that it's horizontal, that means that the a squared is going to go underneath the x's. So if a is 3, then that means that a squared is 9, and that's going to go under the x's. What I need here is the b squared. So I need to do a little bit of work to figure that out. I know with my little equation c squared equals a squared minus b squared. So if c is 2, then that means that c squared is 4, and a squared was 9. So that means that b squared is 5. So b would be the square root of 5. But what we really care about is b squared. That's in our formula. And so then this right here would be a 5. And that's the equation, and that would be your answer. So once you decide if it's horizontal or vertical, I would write that down because that's going to help you remember if the a squareds should go under the x's or under the y's. If it's horizontal, the a squareds go under the x's. All right, last problem. Okay, we got the center at the origin. Vertices are 0 plus or minus 8. So that means one vertex is 0, 8, and the other vertex is 0, negative 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right here is a vertex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right here is another vertex. This is vertically aligned. And the distance from the center to the vertex, that's the value of A, so that would be 8. So if A is 8, then that means that A squared is 64. The other piece of information we're given are the foci. They're at 0, plus and minus 4, so 0, 4, and 0, negative 4. So here is a foci, and here is a foci. And now I know the letter C, because C goes from center to focus, and that distance is 4. So that means that C squared is 16. All right, so here's a few things I know. Oh, and the center was at 0, 0. We were told the origin. So I'm going to have x minus 0 squared. I'm going to have y minus 0 squared. That's me putting in my center. Put them as fractions equal to 1. Since it's vertical, the a squared is going to go underneath the y's. So a squared is 64. That's going to go under the y's. This right here will be b squared, which I don't know yet. That's why I've got that formula c squared equals a squared minus b squared. C squared is 16. A squared is 64. So if you subtract 64 from 16, you're going to get negative 48. So that means that 48 equals b squared. Technically, b would be the square root of 48, but what we really want in our formula is b squared. So 48 goes right here. And I don't need the minus zeros, so I could just say x squared over 48 plus y squared over 64 equals 1, and then that would be my equation. So draw a little picture to help place things, to figure out what A, B, and C are, and to decide if it's vertical or horizontal. If you notice, I didn't make a complete picture. I just did enough to help me find all these pieces of information. All right, that's it for today. Thanks.